Welcome, it's Dave Blaze once again in fighting mood.
All
And
right,
I don't
Rodney.
know, did you enjoy your weekend?
I did. Weekend was beautiful. The fireworks in DC were wonderful, in New York as well. Fantastic. Macy's does a great job. It was very hot.
Yeah, a friend of mine who was there said, DC was built on a swamp and it's not a very healthy place. Is that true?
It's true. DC was built on a swamp. It's all swampland that was filled in, of course, but it is what it is.
What about mosquitoes?
Yeah, a lot of mosquitoes. I mean, since they built up the city, that keeps the mosquitoes down, but again, it's not, the plains of Kansas.
No. I'll tell you what, there's some new news about mosquitoes that has escaped. They've proved it. Who do they go for? And well, it's possibly untrue. No, it is untrue. Everybody says, oh, it's diabetics. They've got sweet blood. And the mosquitoes can sense it. Well, the mosquitoes find you, they found out, by first of all, thermal heat. Secondly, carbon dioxide, which you're breathing out the whole time. And the most important one is the smell that comes out of your skin. Well, it does. Things come through, whether it's food or medicine or anything. So, and from 100 yards away, the mozzie will sense that. And guess what is the worst food you can eat? Bananas.
Because they're sweet. Well, I've heard that as well. And that's why people that eat a lot of garlic
Yes.
in their foods very rarely get mosquito bites.
Well, like we eat a lot of garlic. That's fake news. They still bite, and I tell you what, they're quite bright because they've discovered that if there's two of you in one room and one of them is knocking mosquitoes away, it will learn from that and will go and bite the other person. Well, I suppose that's normal, but there you go.
That's right. That's right. That's the same principle with burglars. That's why you get a dog. So when the burglar comes to your door and hears the dog barking, it goes, well, let's go next door.
That's true. But I suppose the dog can always bite you. Talking about bites, we move,
That's right.
we're moving on
And then the
to
dog bites you.
yes, we're moving on to fake news. Listen, you've got a thing in George Magazine this week. It's intriguing, and it corresponds to lots of reports we're getting. And I'm just reading it here, and it says AI is creating fake soldiers. What's that
Yeah.
about?
Okay, that is in today's dispatch, today being the 7th of July. We put out like a news email every day, Monday through Friday, that covers important, we curate the articles and what we feel is important to the news cycle and so on, and we get that out. We have well over 100,000 subscribers, so that goes out. All right, so this AI story is foreign nations are using AI to produce American soldiers online, of course, to elicit and distribute propaganda. So these videos of these American soldiers created by AI are put up on TikTok and X and Facebook and putting out all sorts of crazy messages, and it's being run by foreign adversaries.
So there's no question of them wanting money from you.
No, they're looking for clicks and views, leave comments, but it's more the messaging than anything else, is what they're trying to get out there. The messaging that, oh, we're going on this very dangerous mission now. Can we get some love? Can you show us some love in the comments? And all of this. And then they'll show the same one, the same type of video, and putting out like anti-American messaging that's very subtle. All right. They're not saying, we hate America or we hate the United States. It's just like anti-mission propaganda.
So this is Russia and China.
I would think, well, Russia, China, and Iran. Iran would be one of the main culprits. They've learned a lot from the Russians.
Yeah, and these are not real and never have been real people.
No, no, and many of them they have like the soldiers are always shirtless for some inexplicable reason, and they're on cargo planes.
I've
It's
just,
really,
yeah,
really wacky stuff.
coming off air about shirtless people, especially males. They've introduced a new law here in Spain that will fine you up to $1,000 if you're walking on a high street as a man without a shirt on.
Well, Rodney, between you and me, I mean, it's not like these guys are Chippendale dances, right?
No,
Most of them are Chips Ahoy dances.
well, it's not the six-pack brigade, it's the boozy Brits. In other words, with a stomach here.
Right, with the big belly out and the whole bit, the flabby arms, and they're walking around, parading around without a shirt. Yeah, fine them $10,000. Who wants to see that?
You've got nowhere in the States that does things like that, have you?
No, we just publicly shame them.
Oh, that's probably, but it doesn't help the coffers of the local town.
No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't.
We have problems at the moment in the United Kingdom, and it's a gentleman that knows the Donalds very well. They approve of each other, Nigel Farage. And just like the Donalds has been got out for donkey's years, it's spread, the disease has spread, and they want Farage out the way. Who's they? Well, it's something we've mentioned on this program a number of times. It's the establishment, let's call it. The last thing they want is Farage in power. So what they're doing is getting hold of all the lefty papers, newspapers, and saying, let's dig some dirt. And the dirt they have found out, which we all knew a long time ago, and the Parliamentary Standards Committee is already looking into this, that he accepted a donation shortly before he stood for Parliament, the constituency in East Anglia. So you're not allowed to do that. He's turned round and said, actually, right from the beginning, this was a one-off donation to give me security. Now, before this ever blew up, he stated that. And on that, he stands and has actually now, this afternoon, an hour and a half ago, resigned his seat in Parliament to stand again in about 6-8 weeks' time and let the public decide whether he's guilty or whether he's innocent. But can I mention, Dave, Farage has had a target on his back since he got Brexit working. That was a phenomenal achievement. And he's hated or loved, somewhat like the Donalds.
Yeah, okay. He's not in Trump's league. All right. He might see himself as an ally of President Trump, but Trump was a billionaire building all over the world for decades when no one knew who in the world Nigel Farage was. Right. So now you said that he accepted a £6 million donation directly before he announced his candidacy, correct?
The law is very specific.
I bet. So hold on. So in other words, and you said that he claimed that he wanted that for security.
He has from day one. Now you think, what security? I mean, Prince Harry can't get the security to come back to United Kingdom. What's he need it for? I'll tell you why. He's had a very suspicious plane crash. A few years ago, he had a very suspicious car crash. He heard
Right.
bumps and squeaks from the rear end of his vehicle, and suddenly the wheels fly off, and he was very lucky to escape. He's had incidents all the time, and I don't blame him wanting security.
So hold on a second. So the £6 million was for a security force or just to make him feel secure?
No, the deal was you've got $6 million, £5 million, approximately, very approximately. We will give you security for the rest of your life. That's not a bad deal for Nigel if you work it out.
Well, I know, but it's still payment.
Yeah, but
It's not a donation.
no, that is legitimate if he can prove it. And I think he can.
Then why did he resign his seat in Parliament?
It's a crafty move so that the people of the country can say, we trust you, Nigel.
If there was no actual wrongdoing, he would not have resigned his seat in Parliament.
No, it's a bit of a test against, he's facing down the monopoly, which is the civil service blob, and those that really rule us in the United Kingdom. You've got this in the States. Who was behind the so-called second election of the Donalds when he failed?
You know who was behind that? Now, was there some election fraud and abuse? Sure, there is in every election, right? Trump got elected in 2024 with the same system that he lost with in 2020. Okay, let's not forget that. But the thing that's important is that in 2020, our people stayed home or they only voted on election day. Okay? They didn't use the mail in ballots. They didn't vote early. It was only on election day. And on election day, there's always problems. The machines are down. We ran out of pens. We ran out of ballots. It's raining. I twisted my ankle. Whatever it is, on election day, there's problems. So in 2024, Lara Trump, who was the co-chair of the RNC, started getting out there and making pleas to the Republican voters to use the mail-in ballots and get their votes in. And Trump won.
So it's laziness, are you saying?
I'm saying that our people that the Republican voters, for the main part, were convinced that they should only vote on election day. And in doing so, they self-limited their voting capacity.
Okay.
That's what happened. And the Democrats, well, they were going up and down the street collecting votes from everyone they could find. So this is how it worked.
I suppose it's the same in UK. The leftists seem to be very organized in lots of ways.
I am sure that ballot harvesting goes on in the UK as well, where you have community organizations that will go into low-income neighborhoods, and they will knock on doors and collect votes, where I'm sure the conservatives are not doing that, right?
I'll point another problem, and it's a serious one. In the United Kingdom, they're about 7.5%, probably a bit more with the illegals added in, but those entitled to vote, 7.5% Muslim voters. Now you think, well, that's nowhere near a majority. Well, think of this. Let's say half the people vote. 7.5% comes 15%. And those 15% will be told to vote all friends and family for a particular left-wing organization, usually the Labour Party.
Hold on, but why do they do it? why do they listen? They're being told to vote. Oh, you guys are going to vote this way.
Oh,
Why don't they
yes.
just tell them go to blazes? We're going to
No,
vote the other way.
you don't do that in a Muslim family. Whatever the head of the family says, you will do.
Okay. Okay. So why does the head of the family want to vote for the Liberal Party?
The Progressive Party, the Lefty Party, because they are treated very kindly by them.
So much like the Irish were when they came to the United States in the 1850s, 1840s and 50s and so on, and they were treated like garbage by the nativists, right? And it wasn't for the Brotherhood of Saint Tammany, which later became known as Tammany Hall, that helped the immigrants, fed them, provided housing, coal in the winter, and so on. And the Irish became a tremendous voting bloc for whatever candidate Tammany Hall was supporting, right? So so the question that should be asked is, how did the Conservative Party blow their own legs off with the immigrants?
It's called short-termism. Now, you've got an election every 4 years in the States. We've got every 4.5, 5 years. Similar. Nobody plans ahead. Lots of projects like fighter planes, big constructions of railways take 20 years. Getting enough money for NATO, a la Trump today. He will say this.
He wants 5%.
Yes, and quite right.
I know.
But I mean, everybody's looking as soon as they get into post. They're looking to repeat the thing in 4 to 5 years' time. There's no planning. They just want to vote. And it's a massive Muslim vote. Now, tell me you've not got this in the States, because we had a census a few years ago. And one of the questions was, do you want a caliphate in the United Kingdom? 1/3 of the Muslim vote said yes. Now, that means 50%, not 1/3, because a lot of people would say, I'm not going to say a thing. Now, when you've got a nation that is openly saying, we want to take over, you've got a problem, Dave.
What is the percentage that the Muslim vote represents in the UK?
Well, as I've described, the Muslim vote is 7.5% of the population.
Hold on, 7.5%. And 1/3 of them said they want a caliphate.
Said.
Okay, so figure 3%. So 3% of the population wants a caliphate. That means 97% does not.
No, it doesn't.
So where is I don't understand where the problem is. 3% are not going to get anything.
No. It's all to do with how many people will vote. Let's say half the population vote as an average. Sometimes it's 6%. Okay. So in essence, it won't be half of that 7.5% that will vote. It'll be all of them. So that's equivalent to 15%. And that will make a big difference. Don't forget, Dave, we've got more Muslim mayors in our towns and cities than anywhere else in the West.
Why is that?
Because A, they're well organized. B, they want a caliphate. C, they want Sharia law. And let me tell you that another thing that's just been announced is that in 30% of the mosques, and we have mosques everywhere, they are allowing marriage down to 6 years of age under Sharia law. So we have British law and we have Sharia law. You can't have that in any state. Things are bad in the United Kingdom.
The problem, And it's the same thing here with Republican voters to a lesser extent. But the problem you have in the UK is that British citizens do not vote. They're victims. They want to be the victim. They want to say, "Oh, look what's happening to our country." Oh, and then they don't vote.
There is that,
They
but
don't
it's not
vote.
as bad. It's not as bad as the States. I've got to say, you turn out
Rodney,
50.
your people don't vote. That's the problem.
We vote more than the States. I'm surprised at the figures out of America. If it's raining, we're not going to vote.
I'm not disputing that. I'm not disputing that. Republican voters, listen, listen, there are factions on social media convincing, targeting Republican conservative voters that your vote doesn't matter. It doesn't count. What's the use? You're not going to be able to vote your way out of this. Everything is terrible. Your government's against you. Everything's against you. Why you don't vote? It's an active psychological operation to keep conservative Republican voters from voting. Meanwhile, on the left, they're organizing and rah rah and let's get out the vote, let's go get everybody's vote and so on. And this is what goes on.
Which leads us on to the first question almost, and that is social media. Now, this is making big strides towards swinging parliamentary seats from one way to the other, especially with younger people. So what the Labour Party have done and put the voting age down to 16, because 16 to 18-year-olds are going to vote Labour. That's traditional, always has been.
They want to lower the voting age to 16?
Yes.
So they want to get a bunch of hormone raging teenagers to vote?
Yes.
Well, that should fix all your problems.
Yeah, I know. And put that with gerrymandering, we're learning from the States. They really move the goalposts. Talking of which, before we go on to our last item, I've got to mention something about these fake soldiers. You've got TikTok, you've got X. Why can't we control these companies? They can, and you being a techie will know this, they can stop things going out. They stop things they don't want, especially Christian things going out that they disagree with. Why don't they? I suppose it's the dollar, isn't it?
Yep.
No.
It all boils down to friction, right? So you got if you want engagement on your platform, you need friction. You can't have just people throwing out their platitudes and good things and here's some good news. That doesn't sell. That doesn't get people. People do not engage with that. And we see it even with our own, with on George Magazine, even with our own social media posts. When we post something that gets a lot of people thinking and so on, we get a tremendous amount of views and shares. If we post the daily devotion, which we do to honor the Lord Jesus Christ, barely anything.
But it's
something, isn't it?
Captive. Yeah, no, I can see that. I mean, there's been over the years many Christian newspapers starting, and they failed within 18 months.
Yeah.
Which is sad, but that's the case.
Right. And that's why you have magazines out there like the Globe and others that every so often put Bat Boy on the cover, right? The mutated Bat Boy, and that sells magazines.
Yeah.
That's what people love.
Something surely by legislation should bring these cowboy tech companies to heel.
I think it's happening in the courts here. Right now, there's a lawsuit that was granted by a federal judge to move forward, and it's suing Meta, which is Facebook, for $1.4 trillion now. And these are massive massive lawsuits, class action lawsuits that are starting to come against these social media companies, not so much for censoring and all that other garbage, because a lot of the censoring, quote unquote, that went on had to do with just misinformation being propagated anyway. But this is about harmful posts that are targeting children or teenagers, and Facebook and X and the TikTok and Instagram have been allowing it, and they have. Here's the interesting thing: the lawsuit points out they have full capability to censor it and stop it, and they don't. So maybe if we get them to pay through the nose, they'll understand their lesson better.
I agree. Something finally that we've got to say about the Donald. He's blotted his copybook. Well, he couldn't do that in Europe. It's already blotted. But with the few supporters he has in Europe, you cannot phone up your mate and say, I want that red card overturning, and then turn and say, what's a red card for? Come on, Donald.
Listen, if you don't think Macron and the rest of them do that, of course they do. And no one ever looks out for the United States team, right? It's all these little countries that you'd all be speaking German, right? If it wasn't for the United States, including your beloved UK. And when we're in a competition with you, oh, everything has to be done. Oh, it's got to be by the book. Meanwhile, you guys are cheating left and right. You know you're making calls behind the scenes. That red card was a farce. That was just to take our best player out of the game.
Well,
and Rodney, you know that.
You've got this idiot system called VAR that would decided against that situation. Look, whatever you say, FIFA, and you probably agree with this, is probably one of the most corrupt organizations ever.
Why would I agree with that?
Well, you're into corruption. Well, let me tell you, why do we have to go to Mexico at nearly 7,000 feet? It was a miracle that England won that match, but it was all down again to the dollar. It's important for Mexico to sustain their la la land mentality so that they can sell boxes at the football match for millions of dollars. And it's wrong. I mean, that should never be a venue. But FIFA stopped it in Chile, in Ecuador. Okay, the grounds are higher. But initially they set a 3,000-foot limit on it. So well below the 7,000 feet, nearly 7,000 feet of Mexico. The whole thing is corrupt. Football is corrupt. Sorry, soccer is corrupt. Is football in America just as corrupt?
Come on.
Never mind your wheeling and dealing. Is it corrupt?
The only way that these sports are corrupt is through the use of the referees. That's where the corruption occurs. Bad calls is how games are swung. That's really it. In baseball, the guy is supposed to obviously throw the ball into the relay at second base, and instead he throws it to the catcher, and the guy gets a triple.
Anybody being taken to court?
This is how the games are swung.
Well, but have they been taken to court?
No.
Why?
Because where's the actual courtroom evidence? Look, when you get into court, this isn't the court of public opinion. When you get into a real legal court, the other side gets to say, prove it. And then when you go, well, look, just connect the dots and watch these podcasters and do all of this, the other side's laughing at you because that's not evidence. So you can't prove it.
I will take you back to the days of playing with a straight back. Now that's cricket. You could never understand cricket being a US citizen. It's complicated and it takes years to learn, and you don't do quick learning from that point of view. But there used to be a date, no longer, where you could say, oh, the ball has hit my pad. And you used to walk if you felt that the ball would hit the wicket. It was down to honesty. No longer. Whatever you do, you're not going to get me out that way. And I will stand my ground, even though I know I'm out. That's the way the game of cricket, traditionally played by gentlemen, has changed. And maybe our public life has gone the same way.
I got to tell you, Rodney, after hearing that explanation, I cannot understand why cricket never became an international sport like Major League Baseball.
No, there's more cricket played than baseball.
Like, you never hit the wicket.
Worldwide.
Now look, don't be talking about my wicket.
That's a euphemism, is it, in the States?
Yes.
Oh, listen, you can't say anything in the States. You can't say pants. You can't say trousers.
It is. What's the matter? No, you can say trousers.
Oh, that's all right then.
Matter of fact, trousers is a pretty funny word.
Well, it's a funny word, actually, if you think about it. Listen, on that,
Some nice trousers you got.
you don't say things like that. Okay, yeah, different language, different planet. We've got to go before we
All
get
right.
into trouble. See you shortly.
Sounds good, Rodney. See you next time.